Well, remember, Paul Krugman said, the best response to a country that wants to subsidize something and send it to you is a thank you note. Right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, so if China does want to subsidize blue widgets and send us blue widgets for, much cheaper than we could ever make them, I mean, why not just say thank you very much, we'll take them.
And generally, so the problem is not the fact that the product is coming in cheaply. Actually, competition will mean that products come in more cheaply and lower cost and more choice, and that's a good thing. And so Krugman's talking about that as that is a good thing. But there's a difference between somebody who's efficiently achieving lower prices and somebody who is distorting markets and subsidizing and doing things that will cause competitors and producers in other countries to go out of business. Not because they're competing against somebody who's better than they are, but because in effect they're competing against another country's treasury, basically. And it depends on the country. So the effect on competition will differ depending on the country. If a very small developing country does this, it's probably not going to have very much effect on competition, and therefore probably wouldn't, under our vision, probably wouldn't be disciplined in any way. But if China does it, and if China does it across the board, it's actually it's bad in a number of ways. One, it will damage total global welfare, which is an indication of the ability to create wealth in the global economy. Number one. Yes, it might help let's say a US consumer of a particular blue widget that is now much cheaper in the short term. But if all the US companies or other companies from around the world go out of business because of this distortion, and we've seen this in particular areas, we've seen this in telecom equipment with Huawei and Alcatel-Lucent and Ericsson and so on, who basically went out of business because they couldn't compete against this artificially low-priced company that was also engaged in intellectual property, violations and so on. So I think you need to have a system, but it can't be you've got to be very careful with your response to it. You've got to have a very forensic tool. And while I'm not opposed to using tariffs in that particular case, I think they should be very narrowly tailored to the scale of the distortion, and they should allow and create an incentive for the distorter to lower its distortion. And then when the distortion is lowered, the tariff goes